apply. The story is on page 4. And government takes Bill 7 back to Parliament. The story is on page 2. And Gulf Stream disposal process ongoing. Is Lufuma. The story is on page 4. And close to 300 Evelyn Horn students to miss exams. The story is on page 4. Don't worry about rigging. Ruling parties lose elections despite appointing commissioners, says ECZ. The story is on page 2 as well. Takes us to another local newspaper, which is the Daily Nation newspaper. In the Nation, with a screaming headline, Opposition Right to HH, demand immediate withdrawal of Bill 7 and decry divisive tribal and hate speech by President Hichilema, saddened that the head of state allowed his rowdy mob insult Catholic bishops in his presence at State House. The story is on page 5. And Zambia in diesel crisis, says Omkaz, complains that most of the diesel supply market has been taken by Indeni refinery. The story is on page 3. And under Bill 7, Pali judiciary subordinate to executive, says Dr. Amawe. The story is on page 3. And Reverend Victor Kalesha abuses Catholic priest. The story is on page 2. I'm not worried about losing popularity over corruption fight, says HH. The story is on page 2. We are disappointed. That's coming from the Oasis Forum. The story is on page 3 as well. And lastly, Free Press Initiative applies to join Laz case challenging cyber laws. The story is on page 3 as well. Takes us to another local newspaper, which is the Zambia Daily Mail. And in the Zambia Daily Mail, with a screaming headline, I'm not afraid, says HH. President vows to fight graft relentlessly, protect public resources. The story is on the front page, taking you to page 3. And the government rules out voter registration extension. The story is on the front page. And first ever mining appeals tribunal launched. The story is on the front page as well. And some front stories: 3 family members drown and a toddler dies in house fire. Sad story. Both the stories on the front page. And an inside story: South African radio presenter charged over Russia recruitment plot. The story is on page 8, an inside story. FL gets 18 months for hate speech. The story is on the front page, taking you to page 3. And Bill 7 back in house. And lastly, that's the Times of Zambia. In the Times of Zambia, with screaming headline as well that says graft fight stays as President Hichilema says he won't shy away from corruption crusade. The story is on the front page, taking you to page 2. And Bill 7 returns to Parliament. The story is on the front page all the way to page 2 as well. And UPND Alliance backs Hichilema. The story is on page 2. Starting on the front page all the way to page 2. And 3 drown as boat capsizes. The story is on the front page. And Luwinda strikes again. The story is on the front page all the way to page 2. And some of the inside stories: mom tricked with 200 kwacha for a baby. The story is on page 4. And government hails COMESA interventions. The story is on page 5. Well, that was the first segment. Of course, just the headlines on both the front page and the back page of the 4 different tabloids that we're having in studio this afternoon. Be part of the program by commenting where you're watching us from. And joining me is Mr. Mukupa Kolala, who is actually governance activist, to just talk about Zambia's governance system. Mr. Kolala, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much, David. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to all our lovely viewers.
How's the midweek so far?
Well, it's been a marathon. It's, like I said, it's been a marathon. It's a lot of issues to handle. There's a lot of issues that are going on in our country, and that need the attention of some of us that are committed to putting our hands to the plow. So, yeah, that's what we signed up for.
You did.
Yeah.
You did. Let's just get into our conversation this afternoon, just by, talking about government dominance, on the constitutional, amendments. Recently, we've seen, sentiments from, organizations like Oasis Forum that has actually revealed that, the constitutional amendment process has been rushed. What is your stance on this? How do you think the whole process has been?
Thank you so much for that question, David. And from the onset, I would like to state that I personally stand with the stance of the Oasis Forum, and I am in total agreement with the Oasis Forum. And I want to say that I am again in total disagreement with the posture and the stance of the government, the amendment of the Constitution, and also on this Bill 7. So now I'll just try to give a bit of context to this issue. I've read, I have researched some of the instances. I was actually there, I was alive. We have all watched and seen what's been happening. Now, in 1990, there was a cry from the people that we needed to return to multi-party politics because we were then under one-party state. That was under President KK. And if you notice, the elections were actually scheduled to take place in 1993. But in December 1990, President KK actually yielded to the cries and concerns of the people and called for elections in 1991. So the argument that President KK changed the Constitution or made amendments to it in the year of an election is actually not true. It's misleading. The second part I want to say is in 1996, we saw those amendments made by the FTJ-led government. And in 2001 again, we saw a semblance of what would have been the third term, but then was quashed because the people rejected it. Now, in the build-up to that, we then see that we had President Mwanawasa who came up with the NCC, and we saw a lot of things that were happening. President Banda came through. However, what I'm just trying to stress is that look at how long it took for the PF in 2016 under the ECL-led government to sign and amend the Constitution. It took many years of consultation, and a lot of people got involved, and we saw a constitution that was put in place that reflected most, if not all, the wishes of the people. That's when we came up with issues of the running mate clause. That's where we came up with so many other progressive clauses that are now in effect. Now, what am I trying to say? If you look at the length of time it has taken in the past, what we see is it is the people that want to see change. And I was speaking somewhere yesterday, and I say that a constitution is a document that governs us. It governs our people. It also regulates the executive. So it's our document. Now, this is not a document that belongs to one political party, but this is a national document that governs us. So even when we come up with these documents, we've always been crying for a constitution that's going to stand the test of time. But what do we see? We always see things such as these. So we have a party in government, pushes for a constitution amendment process. Another one comes in and says, that was wrong, we are going to change that. For how long are we going to do that? For how long are we going to spend monies? For how long are we going to... So we have to do something that is in the best interest of all of us. Now, we are raising children here. And when I say here, I mean we are raising children here in Zambia. We are crafting a future for us, for the next generation, and for the next generations to come. These are things that require a lot of sobriety, a lot of maturity, and they require a lot of time consultation to be done. Now, I was looking at some numbers yesterday which were actually showing that the number of people that are eligible to vote and the number of people that are eligible to make submissions to the amendment process, that number is actually coming to, I think, 11 million Zambians. Now, when I look at the number of submissions that were made to this past technical committee, the number of submissions were 11,830. Now, if we look at 11,830 against 11 million, I think that does not even account for 1% of the total population. So, is that a document for the people? Can we say we have made enough consultation for us to be of the view that this reflects the will and the wishes of the Zambian people? So, to that I say no. Look at how the Oasis Forum had planned to carry out the peaceful demonstration. Mind you, a peaceful demonstration is a constitutional right. It is a democratic right. It is not a preserve of the president. It is not a preserve of the police. It is not a preserve of anybody. It's a constitutional, it's a democratic right. And any progressive nation allows citizens to protest. Now what we see is those that want to protest against Bill 7 or any other governance issues that affect them are stopped. They are barred by police. But those that are, I was corrected yesterday, I won't say those that are protesting, those that are marching for or pro-government, we see them allowed. We see them go to State House and all those things. Is that the kind of country we want to develop? Those are some of the things that breed a lot of discontent amongst our people. So, the Oasis Forum was scheduled to have a peaceful demonstration. If I'm not mistaken, that should have been last week, Friday. But then they called it off because the president had asked for dialogue with the team. But for me, what just surprises me is, if I look at it this way, the Oasis Forum had engaged the president before. Did it yield any result? That should be the question. And then the demonstration is called off by the Oasis Forum because of the call by the president to actually have dialogue. That was on Friday. On Monday, what do we see? We see another group of people march to State House in solidarity with the government on Bill 7. And at the same time, we find very unfortunate remarks made by a man of God, insulting the Catholic bishops. That is very unfortunate. Such kind of language and such kind of politics have no place in this dispensation. We say no to it. One would have expected that if is it the reverend or the bishop or the pastor that made those remarks? Yes, when he made those remarks, one would have expected that he was going to be reprimanded there and then. But it's gone quiet. But today I saw something on social media, I don't know how true it is, he has apologized. But you see what? The damage has already been done. You do not align people based on them not having children. You do not align people malign people based on tribe, religion, race, and all those things. That's not the road that we're looking at. So, unfortunately, that was allowed to pass, and those were allowed to march. You see what I'm saying? And then, yesterday, Tuesday, the bill was back on the floor of the House. So tell me, how convenient have things moved in the place of government? And when you look at this, it's unfortunate. One can only suspect, and I'm using the word suspect, I don't know how true it is, but I would suspect that it was a hypocritical stance by government to call the civil society and the Oasis Forum to dialogue when they knew that they were still going to go ahead. And you see, I also want to take this opportunity to demand and to plead with the government of this republic to withdraw that bill on the floor of Parliament. Should they not heed to this plea, I will then beg the members of Parliament to reject that bill. That bill does not reflect the wishes and the will of the Zambian people. So, we find ourselves in a very unfortunate situation, David. And I must say that yesterday for me was a dark day for Zambia, because what we witnessed yesterday was an assault on our democracy. Yeah.
Right, quite a number of issues you've touched on. Let's talk about, the reason why the Oasis Forum, of course, marched, or rather decided to have dialogue with the head of state, of which they mentioned that, they are not for the idea of, the terms of reference. We can talk about that. Now, other terms of reference, is something that the Zambians should expect from a government that is trying to dialogue with them.
So maybe I understood. What do you mean, David?
Right, so we do have the terms of reference, right?
Yes.
That actually limits people on their submissions.
Exactly.
Now, is it right for a government to give the terms of reference to a people that they're trying to dialogue with?
That's an interesting question. So you see, every time a question like that comes, David, I want to say that we are now trying to be careful when we make these responses. Because we want to sound politically correct.
Yeah.
Not because it is our wish, but because of all these cyber laws, people being thrown in prison, jail, arrests, and all those things. So we want to make sure that whatever it is that we say, we are not mistaken for inciting people or calling this one names and doing that. No. That does not mean that we are scared. It does not mean that we are afraid. We will still stand up to speak the truth. You see, yesterday, I want to refer to this. On one debate, Honorable Chipoka Mulenga referred to me as a boy. And I was laughing because Honorable Chipoka is just 1 year older than me. You see what I'm saying? But he was calling me a boy, which I had to correct and say that was disrespectful.
But you're that old.
So if I am a boy and he's 1 year older than me, it makes him a what? You see what I'm saying? And now, if I take you back, President KK took over the reins of this nation when he was 40 years old. I am 42. So you see what I'm saying? Yeah. But anyway, back to the topic. I was just trying to say that we always try to be careful because the UPND government will not stop at anything to silence any divergent voice. But we will not be afraid. We will not be cowed into agreeing to things that are not supposed to be done. The question you have asked me is simply put that the UPND government is not a government that wants to listen. The UPND government is a government that wants to tell, and the others must listen. That's the simple and the simplest way I can put it. I want to ensure that the viewers out there are not confused with technical jargon or legal expressions and all these things. Simply put, it's the UPND government that are dictating the entire process. Remember how this Bill 7 started. It took the Constitutional Court to intervene for the government to pull back. They did not withdraw, they just pulled back. In literal sense, they were saying it was deferred. But in the time frame that it was deferred, what happened? In fact, the same terms of reference that you're referring to were given 4 days later after the appointment of the members of the technical committee. But one would think that it should be the other way around. So the terms of reference must be in place, and then a technical committee must be put in place. Then they work based on the terms of reference. But what we saw is a rushed process. Why? Probably it's because the executive is trying to push this agenda. So my response is it's them telling us, it's them managing us and not wanting to hear from us or wanting to get dialogue. Because the question I ask is, tell me, in the 4 years that UPND has been in government, which dialogue has taken place and the government has backed down and allowed it? In fact, I would dare say that from the time that the UPND government came into office and when they dared to say, let us dialogue, it actually escalated the tension. I'll give you 2 cases in point. This same Bill 7 and the funeral of our late president. Everything was on course. The moment the government stepped in, it escalated. Today we are now speaking of months that the late president passed away and is not being put to rest. So what dialogue is the UPND talking about? Where is the spirit and intent to resolve the issues that affect the people? That begs a question. That begs an answer, sorry. Yeah.
You've talked about the tech committee. Of course, you as a governance activist, you've taken time to look at the tech committee, the 25-member tech committee, and of which one of them, the Oasis Forum, is talking about it to say they were not included, or rather the church mother bodies and the Law Association of Zambia was not included in this 25-member committee. Did you take time to just look at it, and what is just your stance on it, on the appointees right there?
Yes, I looked at the technical committee and I laughed. I looked at it and I laughed. I laughed because clearly that was a technical committee that was put in place, obviously, to drive the agenda of those that are propagating it. Maybe that's why the Oasis Forum was not involved or engaged, or was not part of it. I'm saying maybe that's why. I'm not saying that's why they were not. I'm saying maybe that's why they were not. Let's leave it to speculation. But the question is, why weren't they a part of it? Why were they called to dialogue? And yet, whatever it is that they went to dialogue for, nothing. As we speak, there's a dispute raised on the part of government. There's a dispute raised on the part of the Oasis Forum. Why can't we build national consensus by agreeing, by giving and taking in the interest of all of us? Remember, UPN ruled this nation for 27 years. The NMD came in with 20 years. The PF came in with 10 years. What am I trying to say? Every government comes and it goes. But the Constitution will still stand. It will still stay. It will still be with us. It will still be with our children and our children's children. And that's why it's important that as we craft these documents, there is massive consultation. There is massive involvement. And at the end of it all, we come up with a document that stands the test of time, if that is, or if that be possible, and also come up with a document that reflects the will and the wishes of the people in terms of how they want to be governed.
Now we have organizations like Godaza who actually saying Oasis Forum was meant to oppose government, any government that just tries to amend the constitution. Recently, the executive director actually was talking about how Godaza how Oasis Forum was meant, on the basis of opposing any government. How has been Oasis Forum, for the past, like with the previous governments, in terms of just amending the constitution?
So you see, David. Here's what I'm going to say. You're putting me in the mood. Yes, you're putting me in the mood. And look, that is a high level of ignorance by Godaza, or whatever they call themselves. First of all, let's break it down. Who is Oasis Forum? Wishiwa Oasis Forum. Let's break it down. So, Oasis Forum comprises of EFZ. That's the Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia. There is LAZ, Law Association of Zambia. There is NGOCC, Non-Governmental Organization Committee, whatever. I don't know about the last C. There is that other church mother body. Is it CCZ or CFZ? What's that? What do you call it?
CCZ.
CCZ, Christians Coalition. Is it something like that? But what am I trying to say? Oasis Forum comprises of the church mother bodies, including the Catholic Church, including these that I have listed. Now look at it this way. It is not true to assume that has been the role of the Oasis Forum. The Oasis Forum has proved over the years to be an institution that actually stands with the people of Zambia. I mean, we saw pictures yesterday flying all over social media. And these are pictures of Madam Beauty Katebe standing with the then UPND President Hakainde Hichilema at his residence in Nyokasama. They were in this together on the issue of Bill 10. What what was the wish of the Zambian people? The wish of the Zambian people then was that Bill 10 should not go through. And when it went to Parliament, Bill 10 did not go through. So Oasis Forum still stood with them, the UPND. In fact, let me correct that. The Oasis Forum stood with the Zambian people, and the UPND identified themselves with the Oasis Forum. Were they bad? What makes them bad today? Because they want to stand on the truth and on the side of the Zambian people, and because they don't support the stance of the government, so now they are deemed to be bad? No. David. We need to stand on truth. So you see, truth, sincerity, and honesty are principles that must be enshrined or must be engraved in how we lead. That's the only way we're going to develop. If we are true to ourselves, we are able to listen to divergent views, we are able to accommodate and genuinely accommodate them, we are going to make progress. But if we are going to continue on this trajectory where whoever is opposed is deemed to be this, is deemed to be that, is called names, we will never make progress as a nation. And I want to state that I need to be very clear on this one. In 2021, the Zambian people trusted the UPND and President HH. And that's why 2.8 million people voted for President HH to go to State House. Again here, Nalava clear. UPND does not have 2.8 million members. So the 2.8 million people that voted for are not UPND. Those are Zambians. UPND can give us their figures of how many they are in structure and in size. But I know that the Zambian people that voted for UPND were 2.8 million. Now, they trusted the UPND based on what the UPND had promised, on what the UPND had told the people. We all know about the 10-point plan of the UPND. We all know the promises of what the UPND made. The UPND said they were going to bring the dollar to below 10 kwacha against the dollar and other foreign currencies. The UPND promised that they were going to make sure that the price of milimi was going to go down to, if my memory serves me right, I think it was 50 kwacha per 25 kg, if I'm not mistaken. And they also told us that fuel was going to go down. They had told us that fertilizer was going to go down to, was it 750 or something like that? Yeah. But then, after taking over government, this is now 4 years in. Now, 4 years in government, have we actualized those promises? The Zambians are there to see. Look at load shedding. Under the PF, well, I'll talk about where I stay. Under the PF, we were load shedded for 4 hours. And I know that in most areas, maximum load shedding was 6 hours. So if you take out 6 from 24, it gives you 18 hours. So at least the people had 18 hours of power. Now, we have seen the worst kind of load shedding that this country has ever seen. People are only given 3 hours of power. Look at the damage that brings to the economy. Look at how many small businesses collapse. So you see, growth starts at an individual level. Then it goes to an SME level. It is the SMEs that graduate into large corporates, and it's these large corporates that then give in tax to our revenue authority. So if we then see there's collapse in terms of job losses because of this electricity issue, because some businesses, like I said, have closed down. SMEs now they're struggling. So when you see that these things are happening, that now creates a problem for the entire, so now that again in itself creates a problem for our GDP, which is our gross domestic product. And when I speak, I want to make sure that bonze abali ngumfa, abali kuchawama, abali kumutendere, abali kundola, abali kuchingola, abali kukalushi, bonze bali ngumfa. So I want to simplify things so that the average Zambian, the voter out there, is able to understand. And that's how come I don't like to go too technical. So that then reduces on what we as a nation produce. So that affects production, because power, or should I say electricity, is a factor to production. So now, what am I trying to say, David? If only this government had put in the same level of energy, the same level of drive, and the same level of enthusiasm, if they had pushed this into resolving these issues I have talked about, we would have seen a different face today. But we see that there is more interest in Bill 7. You can actually see that there is insatiable appetite to have this bill done with and passed at the expense of the many other things that the many Zambians are grappling with. Now look at it this way. Every time you are faced with challenges or issues, we always look at the priorities. So what is our priority list as it stands? It's the things I'm talking about. It's the things I'm talking about. If you were to ask me, what would I rather look at? Because load shedding, the cost of, first of all, it's load shedding, the cost of doing business. The president is on record telling people to be entrepreneurs. He's encouraging people to actually go into business. And I will come back with both hands. But what is the environment out there? What is the cost of doing business? The cost of business has gone high. The cost of living has gone high. People are failing to afford 3 meals a day, David. It's unfortunate. People can't have breakfast, lunch, and supper because they can't afford, because it is expensive.
Indeed.
So to me, if you ask me, that is where the energy must lie. Because a constitution is a document that is governing us. And I am not taking away from it. It is important. It is an important document. But between the things I have highlighted and amending the constitution, which one is more of a priority? If you were to ask me, it's the items I have mentioned. But the UPND has neglected these and paid no attention to amending the constitution and pushing and fighting for Bill 7. It is unfortunate.
Indeed. Before we just move on to the core governance institutions, I know as a governance activist you are not politically inclined,
no.
And you speak to things that Zambian people are grappled with.
Yes.
Just talk about the thing that the UPND government have raised. Say they have brought about free education. Let's talk about that. How do you find the policy of free education at the moment? Maybe just under 5 minutes before we cross over to another issue.
Okay, great stuff. On the issue of free education, I think I would commend the UPND government. So you see, we are not a people that criticize everything and anything. What is good and benefits our people, we will support.
Indeed.
But the things that do not benefit our people, we will condemn. So we are not hell-bent. We mean well, and that's what we stand for. We are a principled people. Now, I want to also mention that free education is a good thing that the UPND government has brought about. I just want to urge the government to work on the issue of teacher-pupil ratio, because that is posing to be a challenge in most of these local schools. And also, obviously, using CDF maybe drive the issue of making sure that our pupils are able to sit on desks and tables and have a conducive environment for learning. But I think that is what I would say really briefly on free education.
All right. Yeah. We move on to the core governance institutions. As a governance activist, of course, you've...
Sorry, David. Sorry to cut you short. No pun intended. Actually, on the free education, there's one more thing I would love to say. So you see, the challenge that we usually face in Africa is that politicians take advantage of our ignorance and the levels of illiteracy. So, free education is a very good tool. That's why when we notice that when PF took over government in 2011, President Mike Osata went on a rampage to build schools and hospitals. What was the intention? The intention was to raise the literacy levels of our people. That way people are able to understand issues that affect them and issues of governance. So a learned, a well-educated, And a well-informed citizenry makes well-informed decisions and participates in the governance system of the nation. So I must state that the free education policy that has been brought about by the UPND is a good policy, and we must all embrace it and encourage it, and just fix all these teeming issues and ensure that our population gets educated so that we make this a better place to be in. Yeah.
Indeed. So moving over to, thank you for that clarity. Of course, you had something, to just... Yes, moving on to the core governance institutions. Of course, we do have the Parliament, the Electoral Commission of Zambia. How has been your observation, under the current government? Have these core governance institutions fulfilled their mandate?
You see, that's a very interesting question, David. Very, very interesting and very important question.
Just before we also compare to the previous ones. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So what we have seen, so if I'm not mistaken, you talked about Parliament, you talked about the ECZ. Did you talk about the ECZ?
ECZ, yes.
Okay, and which one else did you talk about?
Just these two.
Okay, so there is ECZ and there is Parliament. You see, what has happened is very unfortunate.
You also put the Zambia police there.
Zambia police.
Yes, please. You can also put that.
So, what I can say is what has really happened is unfortunate. My heart bleeds when I see that Tarsila Lungu's parliamentary seat has been grabbed in the way it was done. My heart bleeds when I see that the parliamentary seat for Munia Zulu was grabbed in the way it was done. I can go on and on. Do I feel those things are right? Certainly not. I've seen people that have been commenting on the fact that how long does an employer give an employee leave to be absent from duty, right? I've seen people argue that way. Here's my line of thought, and I'm not forcing anyone to agree with me. This is my opinion, and as much as I respect other people's opinions, I would then, I think, ask that they return the favor. Now, Tarsila Lungu, for example, that's the best case I would like to give. Tarsila Lungu is mourning the loss of a father who was head of state. Now, had it not been for this controversy, we would have long buried former President Edgar Lungu. Long gone, we would have long had Tarsila back in Parliament. So, let's start. Why isn't Tarsila in Parliament? They are mourning. David, I'd ask you, will you go for work with your father is in the mortuary? Why would go for work when your father is in the mortuary and the government has taken you as a family to court? Now, whether the government is right or wrong or the family is right or wrong is not a debate I want to go into. But what I'm just trying to say is, we can have laws, yes, but where is the spirit and the heart of Ubuntu? We are Zambians. We are Africans. We are known for that. Where is the Ubuntu aspect of it all? So remember, like I said, the delay of the burial, which was instigated by the Attorney General by taking the family to court, delays the whole process and delays Tarsila from coming back, and the seat is grabbed. Are you seeing what I'm saying? So, is that the way it's supposed to be? There are many cases I can cite. Look at how many parliamentary by-elections we've had in the recent past. From which political party? From which regions? Is that fair? And I'm not promoting any tribe. I'm not promoting wrongdoing. But what I'm speaking is, what is good for the goose must be good for the gander. Let's be fair. And you see, the UPND government came on the premise that they were going to change all these things. Has that happened? No. What does that do? It erodes the trust and the confidence of the Zambian people. So we find ourselves in a situation where we have parliament that is almost being pushed by the government. The Electoral Commission of Zambia, for lack of a better word, they don't even have teeth. I don't see the Electoral Commission today of the late Irene Mambilima. I don't see that Electoral Commission. I'm sure you remember those days.
Indeed.
And this my favorite musician even did a song about Irene Mambilima. Do you know why? It's because of the credibility that Irene Mambilima had. And how she led the institution. Based on her performance, she was actually elevated to the highest position in the judiciary in this country. But I think that certainly the Electoral Commission of Zambia can do better than they are doing. If you look at the report on delimitation, which has been made available to the executive, it has not been made public, and I'm wondering why. So if they are saying delimitation is going to be a process or a result of Bill 7, how should we support that when we don't know what is contained in the delimitation report? This is coming from the ECZ. So how then can I say that ECZ is on point and doing a good job? It becomes difficult. Zambia Police. You see, Zambia Police is an institution that has always been used by successive governments to oppress those that have divergent views. And it is the same scenario now. In the past government, I think you remember, we saw how the Zambia Police shot some prosecutor when there was some activity going on around this High Court area, and yes, is it in Sana or something like that? You see? So the Zambia Police is there to defend property and the lives of the people. The Zambian Police is not there to serve the interests of the government of the day. But what we have seen is that the police supports and sides with their masters. Is that the way it's supposed to be? And that's how come you find that in this breath, they are escorting and protecting those that are marching to support the government of the day. On the other side, we see them vehemently block the activities of the opposition. Give an example of how the Public Order Act has been administered. What does the law provide for? You give notice. You do not ask for permission. Which is why I was actually saying that it was unfortunate to see the president refer to those that were advocating for a peaceful demonstration. He actually referred to them as toying on the streets. And I say no to that, Mr. President. You, Mr. President, when you're in the opposition, are on record. You were at the Freedom Statue. You were with the Oasis Forum, and you were allowed to demonstrate peacefully. But what is wrong with the Oasis Forum demonstrating today? It's a peaceful demonstration. No confusion, no violence. It's a peaceful, and the demonstration was clearly stated that it's from the Freedom Statue, and the reason they picked the Freedom Statue is because that is where our freedom fighters, I think you know that whole background, to State House and deliver a petition. And the police were notified. What did we see? The Commissioner of Police is being recorded in one instance having declined that, and then the Oasis Forum now had to jump and go to the police IG. But that is not the democracy that we sought for. When we changed from one-party state into multipartism and into multi-party democracy, these are the things we were crying for. Go to the US, go to any developing nation, you see citizens demonstrating peacefully. And it's the job of the police to offer security, provide the necessary security for those people to ensure that no lives are lost and no property is damaged. We do not stand for violence. We condemn violence. And any appearance or semblance of violence, we will not hesitate but to condemn it, because violence has got no place in this generation. So, let's have a society where our members of the public and our citizens are free to speak, and free to speak on national issues. I am not talking about these who go and get a phone and start insulting elders, insulting leaders, being irresponsible, and showing all these kinds of irresponsible acts. That's not what I'm talking about. But we have people that are out there that have serious plans, serious messages for the people, that want to speak to the people. Allow them. Why? It's a constitutional right. It is not a preserve of the executive. It's not a preserve of the Zambia police. It's not a preserve of the law enforcement agencies. It is my democratic right. So do not infringe on my rights as a citizen. Do not. Because that is now what brings about discontent. And before long, we hear and we see Madam Beauty Katebe of the Oasis Forum actually saying that the actions of the government is actually gravitating towards anarchy. Why? Because we're going to have people that are going to be very, very discontented, and then we don't know what they might do. And that's not a situation that we want to find ourselves in. Now, if you look, again, I know you didn't ask me this question, but I'll go ahead and say it. From what I heard, the president was talking about foreign investors coming into Zambia to invest. And he talked about how the peaceful demonstrations were going to affect the would-be investors, because then it would send a wrong signal to our investors. Again, I'm going to ask the question to Mr. President. Mulepela po amakana priority nivani vana venu ifwe na Zambia mzi nangona mupela sana umuchinshi kuma investors bamwisa, because that then sent a message that the president is more concerned about the investors than the Zambians. Worse off when he calls people to dialogue, and yet his stance still goes on.
Indeed. Right. Let's speak, let us speak to the accountability and transparency and anti-corruption. How do you assess the effectiveness of the current government's anti-corruption, drive, looking at how, there have been loopholes? Of course, many are the times that the government will start investigations and they just go, silent. Those are some of the sentiments that, Zambian people have, spoken about. How do you really assess this, effectiveness of the Anti-Corruption Commission drive?
Thanks, David. Very, very important question. And it's good that we put these into context, like I said, because the people out there, the vast majority, may not understand these things that we're talking about on TV. So I'll try to be very, very basic.
Indeed.
For the benefit of the viewers and those that are following us online. So, what I have seen from the UPND government is that they are good at promising, they are good at speaking, but when it comes to action, we see the opposite. When the UPND government came and formed government, they promised us the rule of law, they promised us fighting against corruption, but what is it that we have seen? Let me give you very live examples. What happened to those trucks? Those trucks that were, for lack of a better term, that were under Ministry of Health, or is it ZAMSA, that were marooned in Makeni. How has that story gone? Have we seen people being reprimanded for that? If there is anything like that, please help me with the named individuals and the charges that have been slapped. But I haven't seen anything like that. there has been massive corruption of millions of dollars that has been cited in the Ministry of Health. Ndela ndokwera ati awada lefutamba pa chitunji ndela okwera ati kuli yali amatracks aya abazamusa na mpunga yaba Ministry of Health tibatola ko bwino yali aya ile oba fisa ku makeni ya bakuisa busheminani ba ekatapo pali bali abali involved muri ya scandal makabiri futi na tukwata ili yaba Ministry of Health or to unfold that there are millions of dollars which have been siphoned, which were meant for procurement of drugs. Bushekwena iyo abarantu abali involved muri ya scandal, where are they? Are you getting what I'm trying to say, David? I won't even go far. I want to rest there. What has happened to the Ministry of Health under all these scandals that I have itemized? I would love to know. I'm curious. And I know there are many Zambians out there that would love to know and love to see action taken against all those erring officers. So fighting corruption is not just by word of mouth or by speech. It must be seen in our actions and in how deliberate we are to ensure that we bring all these culprits to book. Thank you.
Right. Mr. Kolala, I think time is not with us.
Yes.
Looking at how we arranged not to just spend much time on different issues, I think we come to the end of the program. Maybe you can also give closing remarks. Yeah, you can also just give your closing remarks.
Okay. I was actually thinking that we are just halfway the program. I do know that we're actually coming to a close. It's been a wonderful debate. It's been a wonderful discussion. David, these are very, very important conversations that we need to have. And I want to thank you for having extended an invitation to me to come and just express our views on many governance issues. It is not something that I take lightly. Very, very grateful for this opportunity. And this is a platform that we use to communicate to the Zambian people.
Indeed.
Now I will look at the camera and address the people that are watching us out there. I want to say that the Zambian people in 2021 elected the UPND into office on the premise that they would come and change things. On the premise that when they form government, they were going to actually implement the things that they said they would implement. Now, what has happened is a situation where the government has actually changed position or stance on what they stood for them, and now are propagating other things. And you see, David, funny enough, I am yet to see a government like the UPN. This is the first of its kind. This is a government that has actually made so many promises, has said so many things before forming government. The moment they got into government, it's like they raised everything they said. Social media has all those receipts. But as I close, I want to urge the government of this republic, please, Mr. President, please, the UPND government, and whoever is involved in this process, I urge you and I beseech you with the mercies of God to please withdraw this Bill 7. You have already seen the contentious issues that people have raised on this thing. It does not reflect the will and the wishes of the Zambian people. And I want to tell you that because of the cybersecurity laws and all these acts that relate to cyber, most people are scared. Few people are courageous enough to speak the way I am speaking. And so their silence is deemed that the UPND are in the majority, and what they are saying is what the people want. But I want to say that is not true. I met people yesterday who were saying, "Natuna kano kulanda, apatulere bafyo kuvota." And we are just waiting to vote. Now, we have seen governments come and governments go. We have seen presidents come and presidents go. What has been very unfortunate in the past is that we have actually seen some presidents cry in front of camera. Why? Because they did not expect that they're going to lose an election. So this serves as a timely reminder to the UPND government there is enough time to make amends. There is enough time to make good with the Zambian people. There is enough time to make sure that we set this country on course in terms of all governance issues and all the issues that are challenging to our people and our people are grappling with. Now look, most of our people are poor. Most of our people are illiterate. I think let's focus on those areas.
Indeed.
And mine is to say that whatever the government does that is good, we will support. We will not disrespect, we will not insult, but we will speak the truth. As to whether they choose to listen or not is up to them, but the Zambian people will judge. I thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Kolala, for coming through.
Thank you so much.
All right. It has been the National Pulse right here on Millennium TV, and in studio I actually featured Mr. Mukupa Kolala, who is a governance activist. We also talk about the governance, Zambia's governance system. And thank you so much for those who participated. Of course, did not get any calls. I don't know if I had the company phone here, but next time we just pray that you definitely